The transport shuttle settled onto the docking platform with a gentle hiss. Min-jun gathered his belongings and took a deep breath. This was it. His first real assignment as a diplomat for the Terran Diplomatic Corps. At 23 years old, he was one of the youngest people ever to receive such a posting. He should have felt proud. Instead, he felt nervous. The assignment was simple on paper. He would serve as a cultural liaison at Krathar Station 7, a neutral diplomatic outpost on the border between human space and the Krathar Empire. His job was to help smooth relations between the two species and assist with trade negotiations. Simple, except the Krathar were not simple. The airlock opened, and Min-jun stepped through. The gravity hit him immediately. He stumbled, catching himself against the wall. His legs felt like they were made of lead. The station was calibrated for Krathar physiology, and the Krathar were much larger and stronger than humans. "Careful, little one." The voice came from above, way above. Min-jun looked up. A Krathar warrior stood in front of him, nearly 3 meters tall. The alien's scaled skin was a deep green, and 4 powerful arms crossed over a massive chest. Yellow eyes stared down at Min-jun with something that looked like amusement. "I am fine, thank you," Min-jun said, straightening himself with effort. His training had prepared him for this. Stand tall. Be respectful but confident. Show no weakness. The warrior's mouth opened in what might have been a smile, revealing rows of sharp teeth. "Of course you are. Come, I will show you to your quarters." As they walked through the station corridors, Min-jun noticed other Krathar stopping to stare. Some pointed. A few made sounds that might have been laughter. He kept his eyes forward and his back straight, even though each step felt like he was walking through water. His guide led him to a small room near the lower levels of the station. "Your quarters," the warrior said. "Try not to break anything. We do not have equipment sized for your kind." "I will be careful," Min-jun replied politely. The warrior left without another word. Min-jun entered his room and immediately sat down on the floor. The furniture was all too large for him. The bed was a meter off the ground and built for someone 3 times his size. Even the toilet was a challenge. He had expected this, but expecting something and experiencing it were different things. He spent the next hour unpacking and trying to make the space livable. Then he reported to the diplomatic section for his first briefing. The briefing room was filled with Krathar officers. They sat around a massive table that came up to Min-jun's chest when he stood. Someone had placed a small stepping platform near one seat, clearly meant for him. He climbed onto it and took his place. A Krathar with silver markings on his scales stood at the head of the table. "I am Commander Drakmor. I lead the diplomatic mission here. You are the human liaison?" "Yes, sir. I am Min-jun, representing the Terran Diplomatic Corps." "Min-jun," Drakmor repeated slowly, as if the name tasted strange. "Very well. You will handle cultural questions and assist with translation. You will not participate in serious negotiations. Do you understand?" "I understand, sir." One of the other Krathar, a younger officer with bright green scales, spoke up. "Commander, why do the humans send us a child? Is this meant as an insult?" Several others made sounds of agreement. Min-jun felt his face grow warm, but he kept his expression neutral. "I am not a child," he said calmly. "I am a trained diplomat. I have studied Krathar culture and language for 4 years. I am here to help build understanding between our peoples." The young officer leaned forward. "Understanding? What can you understand about us, little soft skin? You can barely walk in our gravity. You have no claws, no scales, no strength. You are prey, not warrior." "Enough, Rektar," Drakmor said, though his tone suggested he agreed. "The human is here by treaty obligation. We will tolerate his presence." Tolerate. The word stung, but Min-jun nodded. "Thank you, Commander." The briefing continued. Min-jun took notes and asked questions when appropriate. He could feel the eyes on him constantly. Some looked at him with curiosity. Most looked at him with contempt or amusement. One pair of eyes, however, felt different. At the back of the room sat a Krathar unlike any other. He was larger than the rest, with scales that were almost black. Scars covered his arms and face. 3 of his 4 arms bore what looked like military decorations. He had not spoken during the entire briefing, but his golden eyes had never left Min-jun. After the briefing ended, Min-jun approached Commander Drakmor. "Sir, who is the warrior at the back of the room?" Drakmor turned to look, and his expression changed to something like reverence. "That is Warlord Zekthar. He is the greatest warrior in the Krathar military. He has conquered 12 systems. His name is known across the galaxy. He is here to observe the diplomatic process." "Should I introduce myself?" "You may try," Drakmor said with a slight smirk, "but do not expect much. Warlord Zekthar does not waste words on those who have not proven themselves in battle." Min-jun walked to the back of the room. The warlord watched him approach without expression. Up close, he was even more intimidating. Each scar told a story of combat. His presence radiated power. "Warlord Zekthar," Min-jun said, bowing respectfully. "I am Min-jun, the Terran liaison. It is an honor to meet you." The warlord studied him for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice deep and rough like grinding stones. "You are very small." "Yes, sir. Humans are smaller than Krathar. And weak. Physically, yes, but we have other strengths." "Such as?" Min-jun thought carefully. "Adaptability, creativity, persistence. We may not be the strongest species, but we do not give up easily." Zekthar's expression did not change. "Words are easy. Proving them is harder." He stood and walked past Min-jun without another word. That night, lying on the too large bed in his quarters, Min-jun wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. The Krathar clearly did not respect him. They saw him as a joke, a weakness. But he had not come here to win battles. He had come to build bridges. That was what diplomats did. That was what humans did. He would show them. Somehow. 3 days passed slowly. Min-jun performed his duties with quiet determination, but the mockery continued. Someone had adjusted his chair so it collapsed when he sat down. His datapad disappeared twice, only to be found in places he could not reach without help. During meals in the communal dining area, the Krathar warriors would laugh and make jokes in their language, glancing at him to make sure he understood he was the subject. He understood. His language training was excellent. But he smiled politely and continued eating. The worst was Rektar, the young officer from the first briefing. He seemed to take personal pleasure in making Min-jun's life difficult. He would walk past and bump into Min-jun, sending him stumbling in the heavy gravity. He would speak to Min-jun in rapid Krathar, then mock him for being slow to respond. Once, he blocked Min-jun's path in a corridor and refused to move, forcing Min-jun to walk all the way around. "You should go home, little human," Rektar said one morning. "This place is not for your kind. You are like a small animal trying to live among giants. It is sad to watch." Min-jun looked up at him calmly. "I am here to do a job. I will not leave." Stubborn, like a small insect that does not know it is about to be crushed. Min-jun walked away without responding. He had learned that arguing would only make things worse. Better to show patience and professionalism. His instructors had taught him that respect had to be earned, and he was willing to put in the time. On the 4th day, everything changed. Min-jun was in his office reviewing trade documents when the alarm sounded. It was a sharp, urgent sound that made his heart race. Red lights flashed in the corridors. He stepped out of his office and nearly collided with a running Krathar. "What is happening?" he called out. "Training accident in Arena 3!" the warrior shouted back. "Stay in your quarters!" But Min-jun did not go to his quarters. He followed the sound of shouting voices. His training in emergency response kicked in. If there was an accident, there might be injured people who needed help. He reached Arena 3 to find chaos. The combat training arena was a massive space with various obstacles and equipment. Something had collapsed. Smoke filled the air, and sparks flew from damaged power conduits. A group of Krathar warriors stood at the entrance, shouting at each other. "We cannot reach him! The structure is too unstable. The power conduits will explode if we disturb them further." Min-jun pushed forward. "Who is trapped?" A warrior looked down at him in surprise. "Rektar. He is under the collapsed equipment, but the space is too dangerous. The weight of the debris is shifting. If we try to pull him out, everything will come down." "Let me see," Min-jun said. He moved to the entrance and looked inside. Through the smoke, he could see Rektar's arm sticking out from beneath a pile of metal and training equipment. The young Krathar was pinned, unable to move. The space around him was tight, filled with broken beams and exposed wiring. Power surged through the damaged conduits, sending blue-white arcs of energy dancing across the metal. "We need to seal this section," a senior warrior said. "If those conduits explode, they will damage the entire level. Protocol says we must accept the loss and protect the station." "You are going to leave him?" Min-jun asked, shocked. "It is the logical choice. One life for many. It is the warrior's way." "No." Min-jun started forward into the arena. A hand grabbed his shoulder, holding him back with incredible force. He turned to see Warlord Zekthar. The massive warrior had appeared without Min-jun noticing. "What are you doing, human?" Zekthar asked. "He is trapped. Someone has to help him." "The risk is too great. Rektar knew the dangers of training. He will die with honor." "He does not have to die at all." Min-jun pulled free from Zekthar's grip. "I am small enough to get through. Let me try." "You will die." "Maybe, but I have to try." Before anyone could stop him, Min-jun ducked under the warning barrier and entered the arena. The heat hit him immediately. The damaged conduits had raised the temperature significantly. Smoke burned his eyes and lungs. He could hear the Krathar shouting behind him, but he did not stop. He crawled through the debris, finding spaces between fallen beams that the larger Krathar could never fit through. His smaller size was an advantage here. He squeezed past sharp edges that tore his uniform. He avoided the sparking wires by centimeters. Finally, he reached Rektar. The young warrior's eyes were open but unfocused. "Human?" he whispered in confusion. "Hold still," Min-jun said. "I am going to get you out." He examined the situation. A heavy metal beam pinned Rektar's lower body. Min-jun could not lift it, not even close, but he could move it. He found a piece of broken equipment and used it as a lever. Physics was physics, regardless of species. With the right leverage, he could shift the weight. He worked quickly, aware that every second mattered. The power conduits were becoming more unstable. The energy arcs were growing larger and more frequent. Sweat poured down his face, mixing with the smoke and grime. "Why are you doing this?" Rektar asked weakly. "I have been cruel to you." "That does not matter right now," Min-jun said, straining against the lever. "Right now, you need help." The beam shifted. Rektar cried out in pain but pulled himself forward, almost free, just a little more. Behind them, one of the power conduits exploded with a sound like thunder. The shockwave threw Min-jun forward. Heat washed over them. He grabbed Rektar and pulled, ignoring the pain, as metal scraped his skin and fire singed his clothes. They stumbled toward the entrance. Min-jun could see the opening ahead, could see Krathar warriors reaching out. Almost there. So close. Another explosion, larger this time. Min Jun threw himself over Rek'Atar, covering the wounded warrior with his own body as flames and debris filled the air. He felt something heavy hit his back. Pain exploded through him. Then strong hands grabbed them both and pulled them to safety. The last thing Min Jun saw before darkness took him was Warlord Zekthar's scarred face looking down at him with an expression he had never seen on a Krathar before. It might have been respect. Pain woke him, sharp and burning across his back and shoulders. Min Jun opened his eyes slowly and found himself staring at an unfamiliar ceiling. The medical bay. He was in the station's medical bay. "Do not move," a voice said. A Krathar doctor appeared above him, checking readings on a medical display. "You have burns and 3 broken ribs. Your body also suffered significant trauma from the heavy gravity while you were active in the arena. You are lucky to be alive." "Rek'Atar?" Min Jun managed to ask. His throat hurt. His voice came out as a rough whisper. "The young warrior lives, thanks to you." The doctor paused, studying Min Jun with an odd expression. "I have worked in this medical bay for 20 years. I have treated thousands of warriors. I have never treated anyone quite like you, human." Before Min Jun could ask what that meant, the door opened. Several Krathar entered the medical bay, and Min Jun realized with shock that they were senior officers. Commander Drakmor was there. Behind him came others with high ranks marked on their armor. They approached Min Jun's bed and stood in a semicircle around him. "What you did was foolish," Commander Drakmor said. But his tone was not angry. It was something else, something that sounded almost like approval. "I could not leave him there," Min Jun replied. "No," a new voice said. "You could not." The other Krathar stepped aside. Warlord Zekthar entered the room. In the medical bay's bright lights, he looked even more imposing. His black scales reflected the light, and his golden eyes were fixed on Min Jun with an intensity that was almost frightening. The warlord approached the bed. For a long moment, he simply looked at Min Jun. Then he spoke. "Tell me, human, why did you risk your life for Rek'Atar?" "He has treated you with disrespect and cruelty since you arrived. You owed him nothing. You could have let him face the consequences of his carelessness." Min Jun thought about his answer carefully. Because it was the right thing to do. He needed help. I could provide that help. Nothing else mattered in that moment. "You expected to die." "Yes, probably. But there was a chance I could save him. A chance was better than certainty of his death." Zekthar nodded slowly. "You did not think of glory or reward?" "No, sir. I only thought about getting him out." The warlord turned to the other Krathar in the room. "Do you all hear this? Do you understand what you are witnessing?" He looked back at Min Jun. "In Krathar culture, we have a concept that is ancient and sacred. We call it Kethrak. It means soul warrior. A warrior who fights not for glory, not for conquest, not for personal gain. A warrior who faces death without fear, because they act only to protect others." Zekthar's voice grew stronger, filling the room. "Kethrak warriors are the highest ideal of our people. They are rarer than the finest jewels. Most warriors train their entire lives and never achieve this state of being. I have lived for 80 years and fought in 100 battles, and I have met only 3 true Kethrak in my lifetime." He placed one massive hand on Min Jun's shoulder, carefully avoiding his injuries. "Now I have met a 4th, and he is human." The room was completely silent. Min Jun could see shock on the faces of the Krathar officers. Even the doctor had stopped working. "Warlord," Commander Drakmor said carefully, "are you certain? He is not Krathar. He has never been tested in true battle. He ran into fire to save someone who had shown him only contempt," Zekthar interrupted. "He used his body to shield another from harm, knowing he would likely die. These are not the actions of someone seeking glory. These are the actions of pure Kethrak. I have seen warriors with decades of combat experience who would not have done what this human did. Zekthar released Minjun's shoulder and stepped back. Then, to Minjun's complete amazement, the warlord performed a gesture Minjun had only read about in cultural texts. Zekthar crossed his 4 arms over his chest and bowed his head. "I perform the marking of recognition," Zekthar said formally. "Before these witnesses, I declare Minjun of Terra to be Kethrak. I declare him my battle brother. His honor is my honor. His enemies are my enemies. His blood is as sacred to me as the blood of my own clan. This I swear by the ancient ways." "Warlord," one of the officers protested. "This has never been done for an outsider. The council will accept my judgment," Zekthar said, his voice hard as stone. "Or they will challenge me directly. I have earned that right through 8 decades of service to our people. I do not make this declaration lightly." He looked at Minjun again, and his expression softened slightly. "Rest, little brother. Heal. When you are well, we will speak more." The warlord left. The other officers followed, though many of them kept glancing back at Minjun with expressions he could not quite read. Commander Drakmor was the last to leave. "Things will be different now," the commander said quietly. "What the warlord has done? It changes everything. You should know that not everyone will be pleased, but none will dare disrespect you openly anymore. Not with Zekthar's protection." After they left, Minjun lay back on the medical bed, trying to process what had just happened. Battle brother, protected by the most feared warrior in the Krathar military. It felt surreal. The door opened again. This time, it was Rektar. The young warrior moved slowly, still recovering from his own injuries. He approached Minjun's bed and stood there awkwardly, as if unsure what to say. "I am alive because of you," Rektar finally said. "I was cruel to you. I mocked you. I tried to make your life here miserable, and you saved me anyway." "Yes," Minjun said simply. "Why?" "Because leaving you to die would have been wrong. What you did to me before, that was before. In that moment, all that mattered was that you needed help." Rektar's eyes, so alien and yet somehow readable, showed something like shame. "I did not understand humans. I thought you were weak. I was wrong. You are stronger than I will ever be." "I am not strong," Minjun said. "I just did what needed to be done." "That is strength," Rektar replied. "True strength. The kind the warlord speaks of." He performed the same gesture Zekthar had done, crossing his arms and bowing his head. "I was not worthy to be your enemy. I hope someday I might be worthy to be your friend." "You already are," Minjun said, managing a smile despite the pain. "Starting now." Rektar's expression shifted to something that might have been a Krathar smile. "Thank you, my friend. I will not forget this." After Rektar left, Minjun closed his eyes and let exhaustion take him. Outside, he could hear movement in the corridors, voices speaking in urgent tones. The news was spreading through the station. The human diplomat who everyone had mocked was now under the protection of Warlord Zekthar himself. Everything had changed. Minjun was not sure what would come next, but he knew one thing for certain. He had come to this station to build bridges between humans and Krathar. He had not expected to do it quite this way, but perhaps this was exactly what both species needed to see. Sometimes the strongest bridges were built not with words or treaties, but with simple acts of courage and compassion. Minjun spent 3 days in the medical bay. When he finally returned to duty, everything had changed. Krathar warriors who had previously ignored him now nodded respectfully when they passed. The chair in his office was replaced with one properly sized for a human. His datapad no longer went missing. In the dining area, space was made for him at tables, where he had never been welcome before. But not everyone was happy. On his first day back, Min-jun was summoned to a formal meeting in the station's council chamber. He had never been in this room before. It was massive, with high ceilings decorated with battle honors and ancient weapons. A large circular table dominated the center, surrounded by seats for 30 Krathar. Warlord Zekthar sat at one end of the table. He gestured for Min-jun to take the seat beside him. This alone was a statement. The seat next to the warlord was a position of high honor. Across the table sat a Krathar Min-jun had not met before. This warrior was older than most, with gray patches on his green scales and only 3 arms. His 4th arm had been lost in battle long ago, leaving only a scarred stump. His eyes were cold and hard. "General Varketh," Zekthar said by way of introduction. "He commands the 3rd Fleet and serves on the military council." "Warlord," Varketh said, his voice formal and stiff. "I have come from the homeworld specifically to discuss this matter. The council has concerns about your recent actions." "My actions," Zekthar replied calmly. "Be specific, General." "You have declared this human to be Kethrak. You have named him your battle brother. These are sacred honors, Warlord. They are not meant for outsiders. Certainly not for humans. I declared what I saw with my own eyes. Min-jun demonstrated pure Kethrak when he saved Rektar's life. The evidence is clear." "Evidence?" Varketh leaned forward. "He ran into a burning room. This was impulse, not warrior spirit. Any fool can act without thinking. True Kethrak requires discipline, training, and understanding of the warrior's path. This human has none of these things." "I disagree," Zekthar said. "But I understand your concerns. What do you propose?" "The trial of 7 rings." The room went silent. Min-jun looked at Zekthar, confused. The warlord's expression had become very serious. "You would invoke the trial?" Zekthar asked quietly. "For him?" "The ancient law is clear," Varketh said. "When a marking of recognition is challenged, the honored one may prove their worth through the trial of 7 rings. If they succeed, all challenges are dismissed forever. If they fail," he looked at Min-jun, "then they were never worthy of the honor, and the marking is removed." "The trial was designed for Krathar warriors," Zekthar said. "It assumes certain physical capabilities." "Then perhaps this human is not capable of the honor you have given him." Min-jun understood what was happening. This was a trap. If he refused the trial, Varketh would claim he was unworthy. If he accepted and failed, the same result. But if he refused, he would also dishonor Zekthar, who had vouched for him. "I will do it," Min-jun said before Zekthar could respond. "I will take the trial of 7 rings." Zekthar turned to him. "Min-jun, you do not have to." "Yes, I do," Min-jun interrupted gently. "If I refuse, your honor will be questioned. I will not let that happen. You called me brother. Brothers stand together." Something shifted in Zekthar's expression. Pride, perhaps. He nodded slowly. "Very well. The trial will begin tomorrow." That evening, Zekthar came to Min-jun's quarters. "I should not help you," the warlord said. "The trial must be faced alone. But I can tell you what to expect." He described the 7 rings, the 7 tests: physical prowess, endurance, strength, mental acuity, strategic thinking, honor, and finally, spirit. "The first 3 will be hardest for you," Zekthar said. "Your body is not built for our tests. But do not give up. There is always a way through if you think carefully. What happens if I fail? Then you will lose the marking. You will no longer be my battle brother, and he paused. I will have been wrong. I do not like being wrong." "I will not make you wrong," Min-jun promised. The next day, the entire station gathered in the ceremonial arena to watch the trial. Min-jun stood in the center, feeling very small. Varketh announced the beginning of the trial in formal Krathar, his voice carrying across the space. The first ring tested combat ability. Minjun faced a combat simulation against virtual enemies. He could not match them in strength or speed, so he used tactics instead. He used the environment, creating barriers and finding high ground. He thought 3 moves ahead, anticipating patterns. It took twice as long as it should have, but he survived. Barely. The second ring was an endurance challenge. Run a course in the heavy gravity while carrying weight. Minjun struggled with every step. His legs burned. His lungs screamed for air. But he remembered his training. Steady pace, controlled breathing, 1 step at a time. He finished last, but he finished. The third ring tested pure strength. Lift and move heavy objects. This should have been impossible. Minjun could not lift what a Krathar could lift, but he could use leverage. He could use tools. He could work smarter instead of harder. The Krathar watchers murmured as he completed each task using methods they had never considered. The fourth ring was a puzzle, a complex strategic scenario played out on a holographic display. Manage resources, predict enemy movements, achieve objectives. This was where Minjun excelled. His mind worked quickly, seeing patterns and possibilities. He completed this ring faster than most Krathar warriors would. The fifth ring was similar, a test of mental acuity and problem-solving. Again, Minjun's human perspective gave him unique insights. He approached problems from angles the Krathar had not considered. He finished with confidence growing inside him. The sixth ring tested honor. Minjun entered a simulation alone. Inside, he was given a scenario. He could save many people by sacrificing 1 innocent person, or he could refuse and possibly save no one. The right choice from a numbers perspective was clear. Save many, lose 1. But Minjun thought of Rektar. Everyone had wanted to seal the arena and accept his loss to save the station. It was the logical choice, the smart choice. And Minjun had rejected it. "No," he said in the simulation. "I will find another way. I will not sacrifice an innocent person even to save others. There must be another way, and I will find it." The simulation shifted. New options appeared. Harder options, requiring more risk and effort, but options that could save everyone. Minjun worked through them carefully. In the end, he saved them all. Not because it was easy, but because he refused to accept that innocent people had to die. The ring accepted his completion. Now came the 7th ring, the test of spirit. Minjun entered a meditation chamber. The door sealed behind him. Darkness surrounded him. Then light began to form, and with it, images, fears, doubts, failures. He saw himself failing the trial, saw the disappointment in Zekthar's eyes, saw the mockery return to the faces of the Krathar, saw himself sent home in disgrace, having accomplished nothing. He saw himself as inadequate, too small, too weak, too human, not enough for the task he had been given. The visions pressed down on him. They felt real, they felt true, because part of him believed them. Part of him had always believed them, but another part of him remembered something. He remembered running into the arena despite the fear. He remembered choosing to help despite knowing he might die. He remembered that being afraid did not make him weak. Facing fear made him strong. "I am afraid," Minjun said aloud to the darkness. "I am afraid of failing, of being inadequate, of letting people down. But fear does not control me. Fear teaches me to be careful. Fear reminds me that what I do matters. Fear makes me human, and being human is not weakness." The darkness began to fade. "I will fail sometimes. Everyone does. But failure is not the end. It is a lesson. And I will keep trying, keep learning, keep growing. That is what humans do. We fall, and we get back up. We are not the strongest or the fastest or the toughest, but we do not give up. Ever. The light returned. The chamber door opened. Min Jun stepped out. Varketh stood waiting. His expression was unreadable. "You have completed the trial of 7 rings," he said formally. "This is unexpected." The ceremonial arena was completely silent. Every Krathar present stared at Min Jun as he walked from the meditation chamber. His clothes were soaked with sweat. His legs shook from exhaustion. His body ached from the physical trials. But he walked with his head up and his back straight. Varketh studied him for a long moment. The old general's cold eyes searched Min Jun's face, looking for something. Finally he spoke. "I came here believing you were unworthy," Varketh said. "I believed the warlord had made an error in judgment. I believed humans were too weak, too soft, too different to understand the warrior's path." He paused. "I was wrong." A ripple of surprise moved through the watching Krathar. Varketh admitting error was apparently rare. "You completed the trial not through strength but through intelligence. Not through power, but through persistence. You faced each ring in ways we did not expect, using methods we had not considered. And in the final ring, you spoke a truth that I—" Varketh hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "A truth that I had forgotten." He turned to address the crowd. "I have been a warrior for 60 years. I have won battles and conquered systems. I have collected honors and scars. And somewhere in all of that, I forgot why we value Kethrak so highly. I forgot that the greatest warriors are not those who never feel fear. They are those who feel fear and act anyway. Not for glory, not for themselves, but for others." Varketh looked back at Min Jun. "You reminded me of something human. You reminded me that true strength takes many forms. The strength to lift a weapon is good. The strength to face death is better. But the strength to remain compassionate when the world is cruel, to protect when it would be easier to abandon, to hope when hope seems foolish, that is the rarest strength of all." He performed the gesture of respect, crossing his 3 remaining arms over his chest. "I withdraw my challenge. The marking of recognition stands. You have earned it." Warlord Zekthar stood and walked to Min Jun's side. He placed a massive hand on Min Jun's shoulder. "Well done, little brother." The crowd erupted. Not in mockery this time, but in approval. Krathar warriors stomped their feet, the traditional sign of respect. The sound echoed through the arena like thunder. Commander Drakmor approached. "This is unprecedented," he said, but he was smiling. "A human completing the trial of 7 rings. The council will hear of this. They will want to know more about your people." "My people are not warriors like you," Min Jun said. "We are diplomats, scientists, artists, teachers. We prefer to build rather than conquer." "Perhaps that is exactly what the galaxy needs," Drakmor replied. Over the following days, everything changed again, but in a deeper way. Krathar warriors began seeking Min Jun out, not to mock him, but to learn from him. They asked about human culture, human philosophy, human ways of solving problems. They were curious about a species that valued cooperation over conquest. Rektar became Min Jun's constant companion. The young warrior had appointed himself as Min Jun's guide and protector, though Min Jun now needed protection far less than before. They would walk through the station together, Rektar asking endless questions about Earth and humanity. "Tell me about human wars," Rektar asked one day. "We have had many wars," Min Jun admitted. "Too many. Humans can be violent when we forget what truly matters. But you also have peace. Your people work together across your entire world now. How did you learn this?" Min Jun thought carefully. "We learned that we had a choice. We could keep fighting each other, or we could face the universe together. When we finally reached the stars and found other species, we realized something important. Our differences from each other were tiny compared to our differences from aliens. We were all human. That shared identity became more important than our divisions. Do you think Krathar and humans can work together the same way? Rektar asked. I think we already are, Minjun replied, gesturing to the two of them walking side by side. The formal ceremony took place 1 week after the trial. Warlord Zekthar had called for a gathering of all senior personnel on the station. The council chamber was filled to capacity. Minjun stood at the center while Zekthar addressed the crowd. What we have witnessed here will be remembered, the warlord said. Minjun of Terra came to us as a stranger. We saw him as weak. We mocked him. We treated him with disrespect. He could have returned that disrespect with anger. Instead, he showed us patience. He could have given up when things were difficult. Instead, he showed us persistence. And when one of our own was in danger, he showed us courage. Zekthar walked around Minjun slowly so everyone could see them both. This human has taught us something we needed to learn. Strength is not only in the arm that wields the weapon. Strength is in the heart that chooses to protect. Strength is in the mind that solves problems without violence. Strength is in the spirit that refuses to surrender hope. He stopped in front of Minjun. By the authority granted to me by the military council and the wisdom of our ancestors, I formally recognize the bond between my clan and Minjun of Terra. He is Kethrak. He is my battle brother, and through him his people are recognized as allies and friends of the Krathar Empire. Zekthar held up a small object. It was a medallion made of dark metal, etched with Krathar symbols. This is a clan mark. It identifies you as family to my clan. Wear it with honor. He placed the medallion around Minjun's neck. Minjun felt the weight of it, both physical and symbolic. This was more than just a piece of metal. It was a bridge between two species. Thank you, Warlord, Minjun said. I accept this honor, but I want everyone here to understand something. I am not special. I am not exceptional. I am simply human. And what I did, any human would do. We are a species that protects each other. We are a species that builds bridges. We are a species that believes everyone deserves a chance, even those who have shown us cruelty. He looked around the room at all the Krathar faces watching him. You value warriors. We respect that. But humans believe the greatest battles are not won with weapons. They are won with understanding, compassion, and cooperation. We believe that enemies can become friends. We believe that different species can work together. We believe in a future where strength is measured not by how much you can destroy, but by how much you can build. The room was silent for a moment. Then Varketh spoke from the back. These are strange ideas, human, but perhaps they are ideas we should consider. The galaxy is dangerous, another warrior said. There are threats everywhere. How can compassion defend against that? Compassion does not mean weakness, Minjun replied. Humans can fight when we must, but we prefer to turn enemies into allies. We prefer to create friends rather than defeat opponents. Because every friend makes us stronger, every alliance makes the galaxy safer, and every bridge we build creates possibilities for peace. After the ceremony, Zekthar led Minjun to the observation deck. They stood together looking out at the stars. The warlord was quiet for a long time before speaking. I have lived a long life, he finally said. I have conquered many enemies. I have won great victories. But I wonder now if I spent too much time fighting and not enough time building. You have made me question things I thought I understood. That is good, Minjun said. Questions lead to growth. My people learned that the hard way. Will you stay here? Continue your work as liaison? Yes. There is more to do. This is just the beginning. Zekthar nodded. Good. And perhaps, he paused, considering. Perhaps some of our young warriors could train with humans. Learn your ways as you have learned ours. I think that would be wonderful, Minjun said, smiling. Cultural exchange, military cooperation, shared knowledge. These are the things that will make both our peoples stronger. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars. On the deck below, they could see groups of Krathar and the few other humans who had arrived recently to assist Minjun. They were talking, learning about each other, beginning to build connections. Brother, Zekthar said quietly. Yes? Thank you. For showing us another way. Minjun looked up at the massive warrior beside him. Thank you for being willing to see it. Below them, Rektar was teaching a group of young Krathar about human philosophy. They listened with genuine interest, asking questions and challenging ideas in ways that showed respect rather than mockery. The station that had once been filled with contempt for humans now hummed with curiosity and growing friendship. Minjun thought back to his first day, stumbling in the heavy gravity while warriors laughed. So much had changed. Not because he had proven he could be like the Krathar, but because he had shown them that being different was not the same as being weak. The galaxy was vast and filled with countless species. Each one had its own strengths, its own wisdom, its own way of seeing the universe. Humanity's gift was not in being the strongest or the smartest. It was in seeing the value in others, in building connections, in choosing cooperation over conquest. As the stars shone above and new friendships formed below, Minjun knew this was exactly what he had come here to do. Not to make the Krathar respect humans by becoming like them, but to earn their respect by showing them what humans truly were. And what humans truly were was builders of bridges across the darkness between stars.